Recently, I made a community post here on YouTube asking you to share your most hated yarns with me, and let me just say, you absolutely delivered on this one. Lots of you had the same least favorite yarns, but there were definitely a few that I was not expecting. So I thought it would be fun if today we did a tier ranking on all of your most hated yarns, and I shared some of my own opinions too. And just to remind you, these are all just opinions, so it's totally okay if you disagree. But in order to provide you with a bit more data, I've decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the amount of people that commented about each yarn, as well as the amount of people that liked those comments. And I've even put together an entire spreadsheet to keep track of this, so hopefully it gives you some ideas as to whether these are yarns you may or may not want to try in the future, and if you do want to try them, maybe it's worth trying them on sale. I'm really excited for this one though. I think it's going to be super fun to tier rank these, but before we do, let's go ahead and talk about our tier list. So this is our tier list right here, and if you see me looking off to the side, it's because I'm looking at the screen that has everything on it. So I want to walk you through each of the categories that we have today and explain them a little bit before we start. So our first category is, why does this even exist? And this is reserved for the yarns on this list that I think are the worst of the worst offenders. I think there's no place for them. We really don't need these yarns at all. If anything, all these yarns are really doing is just giving us a big old headache. And I think there's going to be plenty of yarns that are going to fit perfectly into this category, especially based on what you guys had to say in my post. Next up, we have pain in the skein. These are the yarns that are a pain in the butt, but I do think there is a use for them. I do think they are necessary for certain projects. You know, they might not be the most fun to work with, but they do give us something that maybe we need in some sort of instance in the crochet community. So I don't love them. I think they're annoying, but I do find myself using them from time to time. Next up, we have stash filler, which I feel like is very appropriately named. These are the yarns that you probably buy from time to time, but you also don't really use them at the same time, and they end up in the bottom of your bins in your crochet storage. And I know I have so many of these yarns. So yeah, these are the yarns I don't love, I don't hate. I still buy them, but I also don't use them a ton either. And next up, we have only if it's free. Maybe you find it at an estate sale for $1, that sort of thing. You can always use this yarn, but you're not necessarily going to want to pay full price for it. It's that sort of yarn that's not bad to have if you're in a pinch. Again, if it is free, not if you really have to pay much at all for this. And our final category is, I don't hate this. There are a lot of yarns on this list that I saw you guys share that I actually do not hate whatsoever, and I use pretty frequently. So I feel like this category was absolutely necessary, but those are our 5 different tiers that we have in our tier list. Just to clarify, the rankings of these are going to be based off of my own opinions, but I want to be sure to include everyone else's opinions in the numerical data that I mentioned earlier, so I will be sharing both. And I think the best way to do this is to start with the yarns that have the least amount of votes and then work our way up to the worst offenders. I think it's just going to be really fun that way. So now that I've walked you through our tier list, I think we're ready to go ahead and dive in. But really quick, if you haven't yet and you like this type of content, I would love if you gave this video a like, because I'm definitely thinking of doing some more tier lists in the future. You'll have to let me know what you think after you watch this video. Let's go ahead and get into it. So I have 13 different yarns that we're going to be covering today, and these are all the yarns that you guys commented in the post where I asked you, what yarns do you hate the most? So we're going to start with the yarns that have the least amount of votes, and number 1 on our list is Caron Cakes with 1 vote. Now this comment didn't specify which Caron Cakes we're talking about here. If you're not familiar, Caron Cakes is a whole line of yarns that usually come in a bunch of variegated colors. For example, we have Caron Cotton Cakes, Macchiato Cakes, the Smash Cakes. There's so many different kinds, and a lot of them are made up of completely different fibers. I use these so often. I'm actually designing a sweater with this right now with the brand new Caron Smash Cakes, and it's so much fun. I believe this person's complaint was about it not holding up super well in the wash. I want to say that was the issue, and in my experience, every Caron Cake yarn that I've ever washed has been amazing in the wash. It's been totally fine, but there is one that I could see being a total issue in the washing machine, packaging, and it is Karen Macchiato Cakes, and it almost has this eyelash material in it. I don't know how to explain it exactly. It's super soft and it makes really beautiful blankets, but I could see this being a real headache to wash because it does shed quite a bit. So for Karen cakes in general, I think I have to put it into I don't hate this, because really I don't. I use these yarns all the time. They're so handy and the color combinations are really, really fun. You can find so many fun variegated Karen cakes, and I feel like there's always something new to try. And personally, I've never had a bad experience with them, so I definitely don't hate these. Next up, we have Lion Brand Pound of Love with 1 vote. And this comment specifically said that Pound of Love quality has been going downhill, which I think is interesting because it's definitely one of the acrylic yarns that I tend to prefer over a lot of the other ones on this list. I've made a lot of blankets with this yarn in the past and it holds up significantly better to some of the other yarns that I've tried. For example, my cats have a blanket made out of Lion Brand Pound of Love, and we also have one made out of Big Twist Value. The Pound of Love blanket is holding up much better than the Big Twist Value one is, but this comment did mention specifically the more recent skeins of Pound of Love haven't been up to par. This is funny timing though, because I don't use this yarn a whole lot. However, I am in the process of making a sweater with it right now, and I have to say the quality of the skeins that I am using is amazing. It's so soft, it's so affordable, and I'm really enjoying it. Maybe there's a chance I just happen to get some good skeins, but Lion Brand Pound of Love has to go into I don't hate this. I actually love this yarn. I think that Pound of Love is a really great value. It's pretty soft. It does split quite a bit, but I will say it's much softer than a lot of the other value acrylic yarns on the market. And if you know me, you know I do not like a scratchy acrylic yarn, but more on that later. Number 3 on our list is Loops and Threads Faux Fur with 1 vote, and I believe the complaint for this one was just that it's really hard to work with. Some of these fur yarns can be really, really tricky. It can be nearly impossible to see your stitches. And while I do understand this, I do think fur yarn really does have its place because I think it can make an amigurumi project feel more like a stuffed animal rather than a crocheted plushie, if that makes sense. And I think it's really cool to be able to have that option with crochet to make something so fluffy. But with that being said, I can totally understand where the headache comes from when working with a fur yarn. It is nearly impossible to see your stitches when you're working with a fur yarn, so my advice there is to kind of feel for them a bit. And also, my favorite way to use this fur yarn is by splitting it into thirds. So if you don't know, Loops and Threads Faux Fur actually comes apart into 3 strands, and working with 1 strand at a time makes it so much easier to work with, and I do love the result. Recently I used the pink faux fur yarn and I just thought it was so cute. I made a little yeti with it. So I do like this yarn in general, but I will admit it's not the easiest to work with, and for that reason we're gonna put this into stash filler. I do like it in general. I think it works up nicely once you get the hang of it, but with that being said, the headache that comes with working with fur yarn, any fur yarn really, but specifically this one, I think does make a lot of us tend to not want to reach for it because it is so tricky to work with. But when you do and you get it right, it is absolutely worth it. Number 4 on our list is Lion Brand Kobu. So if you're not familiar with this yarn, it is a cotton bamboo blend, and it does have its pros and its cons. I think it's nice that it is a completely natural fiber, but with that being said, it is very shiny, and this is one of those yarns, it splits so bad. I don't know what it is. Every time I use this, I just cannot deal with it. I cannot deal with it. I've only purchased it once, I believe, and I have not repurchased since. It is pretty. It does look nice. It's very soft. So for that reason, it's hard for me to say that I hate this yarn. However, I do hate working with it. So for that reason, I think it's gonna go into only if it's free. I do like how it looks, but it's not something I would ever purchase again. I'm also torn between putting this into stash filler because this is one of those yarns that is filling up my stash that I know I'm never going to use again and I just need to donate. So I think we're going to go with only if it's free because I really do not like this yarn. Number 5 on our list with 2 whole votes is a non-superwash wool. And we're not talking any specific yarn here, but really just any type of wool. And I think it's mainly because of the scratchiness. Both of these commenters mentioned that the items that they made with this type of wool were so scratchy, they couldn't wear them, they would get red and itchy, and I totally understand that. I feel like if you put so much work into crocheting or knitting something, the last thing you want is to wear something that's scratchy and not comfortable. And I know this varies from person to person. Some people might be totally fine with wool, while others might be slightly irritated by it. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have people who can't even have it touch their skin whatsoever. So this definitely varies person to person, and I am somewhere in the middle. Recently, I knit a sweater using Drops Nepal, which is a wool yarn, and a lot of people said it didn't itch whatsoever, but I found that when I put this on, I immediately thought, okay, I'm gonna have to wear an undershirt with this, which is really disappointing. And I just feel like when you put hours into something, the last thing you want is for it to itch. I think that criticism is very valid, and for that reason, this is gonna go into paint in this game. I do think it does still have a purpose, and for certain things, it can be really, really nice. Like for a beanie or some mittens, something that is hard wearing and sturdy, but keeps you warm. I think it is so nice to have this type of wool, and depending on your sensitivity level, it might really be worth it for you. I know it's something that I will still use from time to time for those warmer projects when I'm looking to make something really functional for the winter months. I know my husband doesn't really have an issue with wool at all, and it is so warm. It's great for things like gloves if you're wearing them in the snow and all that sort of thing. So I will still be purchasing, but I definitely understand the criticism. Before we continue, I just want to mention that most of the most hated yarns on this list are reserved to the top 5 or so. So a lot of these that we're covering right now only have a couple of votes for them, but just you wait. Once we get up to the top like 3 or so, it is insane the amount of people that voted for these, and I really understand why. But in the meantime, number 6 on our list is Sweet Snuggles with 2 votes. And the main criticisms of this were that it sheds a lot, it's really dense, and it's just not enjoyable to work with. And I will say, I understand pretty much any criticism when it comes to chenille yarn because it does shed, it can be tricky to work with, the magic ring is kind of tricky to figure out in the beginning, and it's kind of a whole different experience to working with something like an acrylic yarn or wool or what have you. And Sweet Snuggles was really something that I didn't find myself reaching for either about a year ago or so, but I will say that Michael's just brought back Sweet Snuggles after not having it for a while, and I am so happy with the quality of this. It's really nice, and I like it a lot more than I used to. I think it's come a really long way, and for that reason, I have to say that I don't hate this. But again, I do understand any criticism when it comes to chenille yarns because I know they can be so tricky to work with, and we all have our preferences. But I think for obvious reasons, you guys know I am a chenille girly. I mean, my studio is literally covered in it. Number 7 with 4 votes is Premier Parfait Chunky. And I will say, this is a pretty significant number for viewers of my channel because I feel like that's a yarn that I am working with all the time. I do most things in Premier Parfait Chunky, but like I mentioned, I know a lot of us have our preferences when it comes to amigurumi. I would actually love to hear yours in the comments, but it sounds like 4 of you do not like it very much. And I can understand why, again, the shedding, all of that sort of stuff, but I know for obvious reasons, I have to just say right off the bat that this is definitely a yarn that I do not hate. I literally have a wall of it over here, so it would just be dishonest of me to say that I hate this. I definitely do not hate this yarn. Now is when I feel like things are gonna start to get a bit juicy here. So number 8 is Hobbii Toucan with 4 votes. And honestly, I'm surprised there aren't more of you that voted for this yarn because let me just say, I think this is a newer yarn from Hobbii. It came out about a year ago and I was so excited. I bought so much of this yarn. And now after, you know, having a year with it, it is a yarn that I simply will never purchase again. I don't know how to explain the texture of this yarn. The closest thing I can think of that it reminds me of is the Lucky Charms marshmallows. Like, you know how they're kind of crunchy? And don't get me wrong, I love that cereal, but I don't love that texture in a yarn. It's kind of crunchy. It's very sticky to work with. It's like your hook doesn't want to slide with the yarn well at all. It is definitely something I will not purchase again. And for that reason, this is the first yarn that we have that is going into why did does this exist? Because I really want to ask Hobbii, why does this yarn exist? I mean, we already have Honey Bunny from Hobbii, which I absolutely love. So I'm not sure what the big difference is with Hobbii Toucan other than the texture is just way off for me. It is way off for me. And I feel like it does vary quite a bit. So I have tried some Hobbii Toucan where it's that crunchy Lucky Charms marshmallow feel. And then other times I've tried this yarn. I believe it's the Hobbii Toucan. It's like the speckly one. It has little sprinkles in it. And that was the most sheddy chenille yarn I've ever tried. It was just kind of going all over the place. So it does kind of seem like this specific yarn from Hobbii is a bit all over the place. It's not the one I gravitate towards, and instead I highly recommend Hobbii Honey Bunny. It's one of my favorite chenille yarns. It is so amazing, and there's a reason why it doesn't appear on this list, let me tell you. Number 9, we have Bernat Blanket with 5 votes, and you know, let me just say, I feel like you guys get me. A lot of you are saying that you didn't like the texture of this yarn, or it's just a little uncomfortable to work with, what have you, and honestly, I completely agree. There's something about this yarn where I like it sometimes, and some of the newer formula of Bernat Blanket is totally fine, but I think in general, it just hurts my hands quite a bit, honestly. It hurts my hands more than a smaller acrylic yarn does because of its size. It's so thick, but also, I don't know, I just find myself not really enjoying this very much, and I feel a little bit validated, to be honest, that I see that a lot of you feel the same way, or I guess 5 of you. If you're one of the people that voted for this yarn, I feel like you and me, we get each other, you know? And that's not to say that I will never use this yarn. It's just one that I don't absolutely love. I think I like the way it looks. I like that you're able to wash this. I think that's so nice, especially when you're making a plushie for a small child. It is so nice to be able to wash it really easily. So for that reason, I think we're gonna go ahead and put Bernat Blanket into stash filler, because I do like it, but I do have a huge bin of Bernat Blanket in my closet behind me, and it's one of those I don't want to get rid of because when I need it, I 100% need it, but the rest of the time, not so much. It's not something I love. Hopefully I don't offend any of you Bernat Blanket lovers out there. Just know it's not personal. I don't know what it is. I just can't get behind it. All right, so we have now reached the top 4 most hated yarns, and I feel like this is when things are really gonna start to pick up. This is where most people cast their votes. The numbers here get really crazy. So starting with one that has been an all-time least favorite of mine, I believe in one of my first YouTube videos, we were talking about this yarn. I really don't like it. It's Lion Brand Homespun. I'm so sorry if you like this yarn, but personally, I've never enjoyed crocheting with golden doodle fur. That is exactly what this looks like to me, and for that reason, it's going into why does this exist. And look, maybe you've made something with this and it's really cute. If you have, I need to see a picture of it for proof, but I just have never found a reason where I would want to crochet with curly yarn, which I just don't understand this at all. And I would love to know your opinion if you feel otherwise. Like, let me know why you like this yarn, but it does seem like a lot of you don't like this yarn as well. I'm not sure if I mentioned 8 people voted for this. So those 8 people, I appreciate you. You get me. But Lion Brand Homespun is a no for me because I can't think of an instance where I would use this yarn and enjoy it. I don't know any reason for it, so it's a no. For number 11, we have Lily Sugar and Cream cotton yarn with 13 votes. And you know, I don't know how I feel about this one. I think Lily Sugar and Cream is nice for certain things. I like making pot holders with it. I think they have a great color selection. But that being said, I feel like in the past year, we have gotten so many more amazing cotton yarns for a relatively low price, similar to Lily Sugar and Cream, that are just way softer and way more enjoyable to work with. My main thing with Lily Sugar and Cream is that my hands feel like they're on fire after I work with it. It's so gritty. I don't know how to even explain it, but it's very rough. It splits like crazy, and I don't know. I know some people really like this. Like, I think about Passionate Kelsey, and she makes the most beautiful tops with this yarn, and I just wish I was as good as using this yarn as she is, because she convinces me maybe I need to use this yarn again, and then I do, and I'm like, wait, I cannot do this. So because of that, I think we're gonna put it in pain in the skein. I definitely understand why this yarn exists. I would not want it to not exist, at very least, for Passionate Kelsey's sake, because I know she loves it. But for me, I don't love working with it. It just hurts my hands, but I still do use it. It's great for coasters, pot holders, things like that. I will still use it. It's just that in this day and age, we have so many other cotton yarns. Like Karen Cotton Cakes is one of my favorites. It is so soft. I feel like I'm working with an acrylic yarn or something. It's just so easy to use. So I don't know. Now we are at the top 2 most hated yarns. I don't know if you're ready. I do not know if you're ready. Up next, we have Karen Simply Soft with 26 votes. And this one, I understand this one, okay? And I will say, this is one of the yarns I started crocheting with, and if you asked me 2 years ago why so many people hate this yarn, I would not know. I used it so often. I think I made my first cardigan with this. I've even used it in a cardigan tutorial here on YouTube. It does have other pros, like it's affordable, it comes in a ton of colors, and I know a lot of people do like this, but the problem with this is the texture. One thing you should know about me is I'm a huge texture person. If the texture is not right, I cannot be bothered. I simply cannot be bothered. It just drives me up a wall. It makes me mad. It makes me spiral. And this is one of those things. And just the shine. The shine. Can we talk about the shine? Why is this yarn so shiny? I don't know why. Okay, I cannot answer that for you, but it drives me crazy. Why do we need a yarn that is so shiny? It distracts from the beautiful stitches that we are making, I feel like. It takes away from the stitch definition, all the hard work, and if you take a picture of this while you're wearing it or something, it's like shiny. Like, why are we crocheting with shiny yarn? I don't know. I think because of that, it's gonna go into only if it's free, because objectively, I don't think it's a bad yarn. It's not bad, it's just not pleasant. It is not pleasant to work with. I don't like it. I will never buy it again. I don't think. Don't hold me to that. I don't think I will. I understand why it exists. It's a value yarn, but at the same time, it squeaks, it's shiny, it splits a lot. It's a no from me. And number 13, the most hated yarn according to you guys. Okay, I don't know if you're ready. It is Red Heart Super Saver with 59 votes. And you know, I really understand. I just feel like you and we get each other. You guys voting for Red Heart Super Saver as the #1 most hated yarn, I really do understand. But I think for a lot of us, it was the yarn that we started crocheting with. You know, this was the first yarn I ever tried in the teal color. It was my very first yarn I ever touched. And so for that reason, I'll always appreciate Red Heart Super Saver for what it is. But it's also just so hard to work with. It's so rough. It is so unnecessarily rough. If anyone can answer this for me, I would love to know why is it so rough? We have so many great value yarns out there that are acrylic, just like Red Heart Super Saver, but they're not nearly as rough. The texture of this feels like crocheting with barbed wire at times, and it is very unpleasant. That being said, recently I made a blanket with this yarn, and I made it for my sister with the Red Heart Retro Stripe, which is the same yarn, but it's a really pretty rainbowy kind of color. And I thought it wasn't as bad as I remembered, but I also was very mentally prepared. I went into this knowing, okay, this is going to destroy my hands. It's going to be very rough. I might not have the best time, but my wonderful sister really wanted this rainbow yarn, okay? So I did it, and it wasn't awful. But that being said, I did have to soak this in fabric softener, wash it a bunch to really get it to soften up, and I will say it did. So I think it's great for a value yarn if that's what you can afford. I think it's very important that we do have yarns that make crochet as a hobby much more accessible. Red Heart Super Saver is that. But I do think you can find better value yarns. Like for example, if you go to Dollar General or Dollar Tree, I think even those acrylic yarns might be better than Red Heart Super Saver, to be completely honest with you. And like I mentioned, Lion Brand Pound of Love, look, maybe I'll get some hate for this one. I do think it's better than Red Heart Super Saver. I think it's much softer. For me, it's held up really well. I don't know. I like it. I think this might be the hardest one for me to rank in this entire video, but if I had to pick, I think I'm gonna say it's a pain in the skein. Okay, because it's very rough, it's not enjoyable to work with, but I don't think it can quite fit into the why does this exist category. And like I mentioned, I think it's because it is so important that we have yarns that are accessible for everybody at every price range, and this is one of those yarns, and it's the yarn I started with. So I feel like if I were to say, why does this exist? I mean, it exists for people like me when I was in college and I could not afford anything. It was the one skein of yarn that I felt like I could afford, and for that I think it is important. So I would love to know what you think of my little tier ranking. Like, where do you stand with these? I think something fun would be if you commented your own version of this and where you would rank everything. But also at the same time, if you guys liked this video, I think it could be kind of fun to do a tier ranking of your favorite yarns. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely let me know in the comments, because I have so much fun putting these together and seeing what yarns you guys hate the most. It just kind of gives me an idea as to where we are standing with things in the current climate of the crochet community. So I hope you had fun watching this video. I know I had fun hanging out with you and putting this all together. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos or any future tier rankings. Who knows? I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!